Welcome to Solution Spotlights with the CEA team at Griffin. Our Solution Spotlights are short, casual conversations where we bring our suppliers together with our in house technical team to give you an on point solution for an everyday problem. Today, we are going to address propagation with a focus on the inputs. What are the important considerations for propagation media and trace? With us, we have James Rowley from the TO Plastics and Mike Cade with Jiffy. We will also hear from Erica Hernandez from the CEA team. We'll get started with Rebecca Baruli, one of CEA's customer service reps. Take it away, Rebecca.
Thanks, Tammy. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Many growers of hemp and most growers of cannabis do their own propagation. Some growers start from seed while other growers start from cuttings. Erica, could you tell us a bit more about this process and how the two methods might differ?
Sure, Rebecca. Thanks for that introduction. And thank you, Tammy, for introducing everybody today. So with seed versus clone or cutting production, there's a couple of things that we really want to make sure growers remember. And a lot of this is about moisture and irrigation control. So for seeds, what we really care about is the root zone, so the media. Seeds are going to need a starting material that holds moisture pretty well while it supports good oxygen levels and good root development. With hemp and cannabis seeds, they tend to germinate fairly quickly. So we'll see the hypocotyl and the cotyledons, or the sprout and the seed leaves, within the first week, usually. So we see a lot of activity really quickly, and maintaining that even moisture in the root zone is typically our most important part of keeping those seedlings healthy. As the seedlings are growing, we should, plan on transplanting them fairly quickly, because we don't want them to become root bound, and we don't want them to have that dry out issue in the root zone as the plants become larger. So usually growers are looking at transplanting from that germination medium into larger pots, usually within 2 to 3 weeks. So again, seeds, we have to worry about the root zone. But with clones, what we're worrying more about is the aerial environment, the humidity around the leaf material. So since clones are basically cuttings of the plant, of a mother plant, we want to make sure that we can maintain a high humidity environment around the leaves while those clones are developing a root zone. Now, cannabis and hemp, they do root fairly quickly, but it still is going to take a few days for some root initials to start, and then up to a week or two to have a strong system of initial roots and root growth. So during that time, we want to make sure that a high humidity environment is maintained. And there's a number of products that we can use and a number of strategies that we can use to control that aerial humidity environment for the clones. So again, with seeds, we want to think about the root zone and moisture there. And with clones, we want to think about relative humidity in the aerial environment. And I'll let our supplier partners talk a little bit more about each of those.
Thanks, Erica. Sounds like there's quite a bit to think about when it comes to media. Mike, can you tell us a bit more about what media options Jiffy offers and why we might pick one over the other? Yeah, so why might we pick a preformed media over a loose germination mix?
Well, for seedlings, it really is grower preference. I mean, we see these growers using seeds mainly since it can be less expensive form of growing, which means that they can be more cost conscious overall. Loose fill media can be a cheaper option on the front side, but these are usually smaller growers and those wanting to control their inputs on the cannabis side, not so much on the hemp side. There are other reasons because of volumes and things there. But with a preformed type of media like Preformed, most of the upfront work has been done for them. You're not having to store trays, media, or other inputs in your facility. Some facilities just don't have extra space, especially smaller growers sometimes. But with the preformed media, they just simply can pull a tray off a pallet and they can just begin to start sewing or sticking into a well-defined dibble plug. But the greatest benefit will come once the seed or clone starts to take root, because as Erica stated, the seed, it is probably, for seeds, it is a must that the moisture levels in the media be controlled to find that perfect combination between moisture and the needed air around them, the plant itself or the root. Too much of either is not necessarily good. This is true for both systems of growing, but more so for seedlings when they start the process of germinating to the development of the strong root system. We all know that if we start with a stronger, healthier plug or a liner, we will have a much greater success in the end.
Can either type of media be used for either type of plant starting? Is there a better choice if you're starting from seeds versus if you're starting from clones?
Yeah, certainly. Either can be. The one thing that I've learned over 40 years in the industry is that the more I fully understand the grower's style, the facility environment that they're growing in, what limitations, challenges that they may be experiencing in their facilities, along with their goals and their plan for a finished crop. Once I have the larger picture and understanding, then that's when I can answer that type of question. But good growers can certainly grow in either method.
So do these medias all come with starter chargers of fertilizer, or do we even need that for clone or seed starting?
About 95% of them do, and Jiffy has over the years developed a lot of different medias that have no nutrients in them. There was a trend that kind of went that way with larger growers and the young plant side for years. But like I say, 95% of the blends that Jiffy produces as well, and for professional growers in bags, all have some sort of a starter nutrient in it.
Thanks. So what other tips do you have for growers starting from seed versus growers starting from clone?
Well, this is, for me, this is a simple one, and it's my philosophy, and I think it would apply to many suppliers as well. James probably would even agree to this. I've just found that most successful growers and operations are those that allow industry professionals and suppliers to have a greater understanding of their facility, their processes, and their challenges. But it's not always been the case in this particular market. They tend to be a little bit more closed door and a little more tight-lipped about their procedures, and the things that they do in their facility. You know, Jiffy has a very large worldwide group of scientists, engineers, plant specialists, and even those in the field who have years and years of experience that they can share. I fully believe that true success for the grower is going to come when these operations open up their doors to the field reps and allow access to all this information and knowledge to be shared, trialed, and even utilized.
Thanks, Mike. That's a lot of great information, but we need something to put all that media in and to help control humidity. James, can you tell us a bit of the options we have here? So there are so many plugs and trays, liner trays out there. Are there any primary differences between a tray designed for seedling production and one designed for sticking cuttings?
Sure. A lot of this decision of what tray to use by a grower will be dependent on the type of seed and plant to be grown and how long the young plants will need to be in the trays before transplanting. The same thing would apply to hemp and cannabis as well. Trays used for seedlings generally have more cells per tray, with each cell being smaller in size. Trays for cuttings are generally larger in size and deeper to better handle a cutting and its needs. Irrigation methods, the type of media used, and other environmental conditions can impact the choice as well.
Nice. So why should growers use different trays if they are planting into the field instead of into a pot in a warehouse or greenhouse?
Well, every growing situation is different, but primarily most trays used for field production have larger cells, resulting in a larger plant and a larger soil volume in that root zone, which would help with any shock being transplanted to not interrupt the root mass. While these same trays could be used in a greenhouse, normally something this size is not needed in a controlled environment of a greenhouse. So usually a plug tray, something with a smaller cell volume, is used.
Nice. So how do the ventilation holes between the cells in the starter tray actually make a difference for plant growth?
Ventilation hoses help in multiple ways. They help increase airflow, which can keep the trays uniform with moisture levels and help suppress disease issues. They can also help with excess irrigation runoff.
So do you recommend that cannabis and hemp users reuse their propagation trays? Why or why not?
We recommend recycling trays to reduce risk of disease or other issues. The majority of our trays are made and designed to be used with a single use in mind. We do have heavier options, which is a thicker gauge plastic and mini trays, which would help if a grower is adamant about reusing them. But overall, it's not a recommendation that we make.
That makes sense. So when do growers need flats under their trays and when don't they?
It really depends on the tray being used. Our plug tray line is made to be used without a carry tray. That helps with automation as far as not having another tray under it, as for, needing on a conveyor system or something like that. A lot of our other trays, our liner tray line, our propagation tray line, they're not rigid enough to be carried without a tray, unless you're using both hands to carry one. And usually most of the time, labor is a key issue within a greenhouse. So it really depends on what they're using. If you're considering a warehouse or a greenhouse bench or even growing on the floor, a lot just would depend on what they have under that. If weeds are an issue or if it's going to be setting on top of something that was going to prevent irrigation, then we recommend a flat. But it really depends on the tray being used.
Okay. Can you tell me a bit about humidity domes? What's the best way to use a humidity dome?
Humidity domes help to protect the seeds and young plants when starting to grow. They can help maintain a desired moisture level. They help create an ideal environment for seed starting as well. They generally increase germination rates, which is really important to a hemp and cannabis grower or anyone else for that matter.
Are there any other tips you have for growers starting from seed versus starting from clone?
I just would recommend doing as much research as possible. Ask for help where needed, be prepared for anything and constant changes. Even though a lot of times growing these types of plants, you're in a controlled environment, you're still a farmer at heart. So something's always changing.
Thanks, guys. That's a lot of great information. If there are any questions, growers should feel free to reach out to the GGS Pro team, your Griffin rep, or the TO Plastics and Jiffy team. Please give us a call at 800-888-0054, extension 89199, or you can email us at cea@griffinmail.com.